I mean, with Mobydik, at an interesting time, shortly before the playoffs, you guys did the thing that this roster was built to do. I think I remember interviewing in the preseason, and he said this is a roster that's supposed or planned to win the league. I think you've kept yourself well in shape for that. You have a roster of a lot of champions, but you finished outside the top three, so you didn't directly qualify. You had to go through play-ins. Mid-season madness, you didn't win it. So I guess there's still the question, are you satisfied with your general performance this season? And are you satisfied with your team's performance specifically after you took over?
일단
I didn't join the team like at the very first, so I couldn't build a team as I wanted. But that's such a bummer. But I am very satisfied with that our performance right now as we are improving. But I would say we could have been better. That at the moment where we should have won those matches, but we didn't. But other than those, I'm pretty satisfied with the season right now.
You have been in Overwatch League for a while, and from what I heard from other coaches, this was a pretty stressful season. How do you think this season was, maybe for you and your players, in comparison to the others?
So when you actually look at it, like my what is it, my job, just as it is, it's always stressful. And then when you actually look back on it, my in the past, it seems pretty beautiful because like it's already in the past. Maybe it was there were some hardships in the past, but when I look at it right now, it was a like just a past moment, beautiful for me. So it wasn't that really stressful for me so far this season in general. But if I have to pick one, the most stressful season was I think 2020 when we had the weekly band picks, and yeah, that was very stressful. But so far I would say this season I was able to actually relieve my stress somewhat. So I would say it was pretty good so far.
Sweet. Now, one thing that especially the North American coaches love to do is to talk down on APAC this season. It felt like because they scrimmed them during midseason, as you did, and I guess like also looking at the VOD reviews, that was interesting, right? Like, did you specifically look at APAC at all? Are you concerned for them during the this playoff? During the playoffs, do you think they have any chance?
So actually our like viewpoint, our perspectives for each team like is I mean like for West region and then East region we have like different perspectives how we view the game and stuff. But since we have a lot of teams in the NA, so that's why we can improve and develop faster than East region. But I would say so far at this point, every team is competitive, and all the teams that made it to the playoffs, I wouldn't say they're weak. Yeah.
For sure. One thing that Rush, the head coach of Dallas Fuel, pointed out was he said what was missing in APAC was the ability to practice against the best team, which was ATL Reign, and specifically also Lip, who was the best Sombra. Do you think that's true? That both that Lip was the best Sombra and that it really helped the NA region to be able to practice against Reign?
Yeah, as you said, I think that's pretty big. How many teams we have in the NA, and then how good the opponent's team are, and then our direction for the skirmishes and the quality and everything else. Those really impact a lot of teams.
Sure. Now, I asked about Lip because he's one of the, I think, big MVP candidates, even though I will say some of your head coach competitors had some interesting opinions about that specifically. If you had to say, who would be your choice for MVP this season?
Yeah, I'll say Lip Because he's been playing very well continuously, like MSM and regular season so far, and then he was always nominated for the MVP title, and then except for Lip, I don't know. I cannot really think of any other candidates.
That's interesting because when I talked, for instance, to Gunba and I think also Junkbuck, they said Lip's not even the best player on their team. They were a lot very convinced by Stalker, and they thought Stalker was the most impressive player. Do you have any comment to that?
I wouldn't say like I'm against their opinions, but I mean, like in general, all the Atlanta Reign players, they played really well. And then so far, when I look at their performance so far, like everybody is very talented and playing really well. But when I just look at so those candidates who's are on the who's are on for the MVP right now, so I would pick Lip.
I feel like whenever we talk about really good play this year, it is weird that nobody seems to talk a lot about Uprising and your players. So other than, I think Christopher mentioned that he thought Birdring was probably the second best Sombra, maybe the best. Twilight had a great season. Smurf had a good season. Did your players care that they weren't nominated, and do you think they should have been?
I don't think they like our but because they haven't nominated like before a long time ago or once in the past, or for example like a role star and stuff. But the reason why no one was nominated for the MVP, I think because we had overall had a good season so far, but we didn't really put up like impressive matches to the fans. So we played, I would say we played pretty well, but it wasn't like impressive or memorable. Yeah.
If you had to highlight one of the players, maybe that surprised you when you got in, how good they are, how much they helped the team, someone that really brought value, who would you say is the MVP of the Uprising from the season half that you coached this team?
그러면 이제 지금까지 재임을 하시면서 보시기에 감독님이 뽑는 저희 보스턴 업라이징의 MVP 선수는 누구인가요? 전반적인 걸 다 봤을 때.
공평하게 그냥 다 안 줄래요. 네, 그냥 다 안 줄래요.
Just fairly, I wouldn't give MVP to anyone, no one.
Okay, fair enough. Now, another award category that's maybe a little bit more interesting to you is the Coach of the Year. And generally speaking, there are two categories, or rather two criteria that people use in order to decide who wins this. It's either the coach of the best team, that would be Gator, I think this year is fair to say, or the coach that does the most with the least. And that would maybe be Gunba. Do you have an opinion? Should it be Gunba, should it be Gator, or should it be someone else?
Yeah, actually, I have my answer in those two people. I've mentioned his name to the team, like our players as well. That Goomba, he deserves to get the title. It's because when we actually have Scream against Florida Mayhem, they're pretty tricky and pretty annoying. They're a pretty annoying team. It's because when we actually have a scrimmages with them, they always improve their skills. For example, like we won against Florida Mayhem today, but they always come out with like other things or tactic strategies in the next scrimmage. So, well, you gave me those two controversial effects. That number one is his team is actually going towards for the one of the top teams, and the second is he's the coach that who utilize their resources and skills that they have right now. So I would say Goomba.
Sweet. Now, One annoying thing, I guess, that they did was to sign Who Are You? And that was based on a loophole that allowed teams to still sign contenders talent. And admittedly, this year is especially egregious because Who Are You was very close to qualifying for playoffs with O2 Blast. So what do you think about this loophole that allows teams to sign players this late in the playoffs?
것 같아요.
I don't know. Actually, I haven't really thought about it deeply about the point, and I'm just it got me thinking. Oh, okay, they got the player, they signed the player. It's possible. Okay, I know. Well, I think, but also it's one of their strengths that utilizing the loophole is also their skill, I would say. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Sure. Now, it begs the question: did you get active in the transfer market? Did you sign anyone?
그러면 거기서 번외로 질문으로 혹시 감독님은 새로운 선수 계약을 하셨나요? 뭐 계획이 있으신가요?
아니요. 저희는
Nope.
없어요.
No, we don't have any plans.
So your team has had, I believe, is it 9 players on active roster for the entire season, right? That should be an advantage to you guys, and especially towards the end. Now everyone gets to sign, the player exactly that they need for this meta. Preparation doesn't matter as much. You invested a lot in this. Shouldn't you be able to benefit more than other teams from this situation?
Yeah, actually, like having many players, a lot of players, is not like a big benefit or strength to the team. Well, let's say like we have just a small players, but if those players are talented and then playing very well, then that's good. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. So yeah.
For sure. Now, I think I'm also interested how you guys like the tournament format that was chosen. So playing groups and then into single elimination. The community in the West is not happy with single elimination. They would have liked to have double. What do you think? How do you like the format this year?
Not really. Like I'm not really satisfied with the format right now, that we have right now, because sometimes there is like a big drama, like from just a underdog team that was in the lower bracket or losers bracket, and then they win over a lot of teams, and then they win the grand finals or whatever. But we cannot see that dramatic moment. So yeah, it's such a bummer.
Sure. Now, from what we heard, it was a lot of Zarya, Genji, Sojourn, Lucio, Baptiste. But I heard there's also a little bit of a flip in the meta where this is not necessarily the meta comp. There's now a lot of diversity. Does that help you? Do you think Zarya will survive? Like, what do you think about the current meta state?
I couldn't really go deep into it because like I might leak my or some other team's competitions, but I cannot really go deep into it. But yeah, I would say you will see a lot of variety in the playoffs because everybody has it will be just different for every team, I guess.
Okay, so that's interesting because when we drafted, Infernal said, okay, London is just going to play their Reinhardt. We don't want to practice against this, right? Gunba called London bracket terrorists, right? Because they're just going to play the Reinhardt. You have them in your first match, so you have to prepare for this. But it's not necessarily a composition that practicing against it will help you in the rest of the bracket, unless it becomes meta, of course. So do you think like playing London first is a disadvantage for you?
Yeah, like you said, actually there are not many teams that using Rhine, but that's a part of the reason like we couldn't really prep for it. But I wouldn't say I don't look at it as like our disadvantage, because actually I loved it when I saw London that we're gonna play against, because it's gonna be a like another matchup with Christopher, in the playoffs. I love it, and I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a fun match.
For sure. Now, there's one rule that I personally think is very confusing and weird and probably just bad. And it's that the order in which teams were picked determines the seed in terms of who gets to pick the first map. I talked to Christopher about it. He said it's a big advantage for them to be able to pick the first map against you guys. What do you think about that decision? And do you think it's a big advantage for them?
Well, yes, I'm actually not really happy about it. The fact that it's not the seed from the regular season records in the playoffs. But like I said before, it's not gonna be a disadvantage for our team because if the London Spitfire is a team that comes out with a lot of a variety of competitions, or that the team that can utilize or come up with like a lot of heroes or picks, and then they put us in a situation like pretty bad, like with the maps. That will give me a headache. But I would say London is a team that they have a good synergy as a team, as a unit, but their competition is pretty simple. So what maps we play, we can beat them.
Did you practice a lot against them during the play-in preparation?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Did you practice a lot against London in the play-in preparation?
No, we didn't. We couldn't really actually prepare any even a single map preparing going into the planes. Well, just in the morning, I just let my players know that like how we're gonna play, just overall, and that was it.
Okay, well, that worked out, so that bodes well, I suppose. Now, I think, generally speaking, people think you got the easier group of the two. Most people consider the lower bracket, or the bracket with Houston and Florida, to be the stronger one. How do you like the brackets that you were drafted into?
동의합니다. 저희 조가 제 생각에는 네, 훨씬 편한 조라고 생각을 하긴 해요. 많은 생각도 안 해도 되고.
Yeah, I actually agree with them. It's I feel like comfortable, not like we're in a weak bracket. We're in a more like comfortable bracket, so we don't really think about it like deeply. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the interesting part is that on paper, you have the strongest team of this season on your side of the bracket. When I talk to the other coaches, it doesn't seem to be the case that they are the favorites for this playoffs. Do you agree? Do you think the Atlanta Reign are the favorites, or is it maybe Florida or Houston or someone else?
Yeah, I'll say I would pick two teams. Other than their performances, anyway, like I would say London and Dallas, because they have their own colors, and then that's very cool. I love that. And then because they have their own freaking way. Like this is my way. Whatever you say, I'm gonna choose my way. So I'm rooting for them. But well, our first opponent is London Spitfire, so I cannot say I'm a fan of them, but so I would say I'm a fan of Dallas.
For sure. Who do you think, of course, everyone considers themselves to be, you want to win, so therefore you think you're the strongest team. I guess the question therefore has to be, who's going to be with you in the grand final?
급파 상대 누가 될까요? 보선이 올라간다면?
메이엠이요.
I would say Florida Mayhem.
Why?
So if we actually make it to the grand finals, I would say Florida Mayhem, because I think everybody would think the Mayhem is the team. It's a most trickiest. The trickiest team. It's because they have a good team synergy, and then they have a lot of different colors, like their own team colors, and so I would say I see a lot of possibilities for them.
Sweet. Then We wish you the best of luck in the preparation for the playoffs, and thank you for the interview.